Were you known as a really creative kid? Did you write books? Did you paint? Did you sing? Did you create all the time and it was part of your identity? And when you were a kid, you had all these big ideas and dreams of growing up and being an author, a singer, an artist, anything. And now you're an adult and you look back and you're like, where did it go wrong? You lost your creative spark. You don't know why you don't have that same creativity anymore. When I was 7 to 9 years old, I got into writing books. I was obsessed with it. I found out I could staple together pieces of paper and just write a story and just write and write. And all these ideas were coming out. And it was the most amazing thing. And I wrote chapter books even. I have a core memory of me reading one of my chapter books out loud to my third grade class, which is crazy because I at that age you have no fear. You have no fear of judgment or you don't think about all these societal pressures. You just be. You just are what you are. I have buckets of all these books that I wrote when I was little. And then 5th grade comes around and I'm more worried about school and grades and sports. And somehow, through all of this, I lose my creative spark. I think about what happened to my creativity. Why did it vanish? Did it just leave because I was no longer a kid anymore? Was creativity just for kids? Was I growing up into this new world and I had to focus on adult things and I was no longer creative? I had fallen victim to this idea that as amazing as writing stories was, I was growing up and I had to focus on other things. I no longer had time or space to think about these creative stories because at that age, at like 10 to 12, you are so susceptible to like societal pressure and judgment and social groups and the kind of influences around you. I didn't have time to be creative and think about those things. I was too focused on everything else. And in that, my creativity fell. And I wasn't creating in that time. I wasn't making stories. I wasn't writing. I wasn't painting. I wasn't drawing. Throughout middle school, my creativity only had small moments to flourish. I joined literary magazine and I wrote poetry. But poetry was never my like real passion. It was always storytelling. And I remember in 8th grade, we had some creative writing assignments and I had like flashes of my creativity come back to me. But I could only do it in those moments. I didn't think that it was me anymore. I had lost this identity of being creative. I thought I was just creative as a kid because that's what kids are. I had a few short story assignments in 8th grade and I remember writing and even my teacher was like, "Oh, like this is really good. Like this is really good." But I thought that it was something that I was in the past and it wasn't something I was anymore. I started taking on this new identity of I wasn't a creative person. And this is something that I want to really dissect because I thought I wasn't creative anymore. I thought that it was something that I was as a kid and then I had lost it. And because I had lost it for so long, it wasn't something that I could go back to because it wasn't innately who I was anymore. But what I've come to realize is that we're all innately creative in our own ways, whether it is art, sculpting, building, science, arts, math, writing. Anything you create is creative. And this can be in any way, in any shape, or any form. I looked up the definition of creativity, and it is the use of imagination or original ideas, especially in the production of an artistic work. And I didn't know if I loved this definition, so I looked up a second definition, which was the ability to make or otherwise bring into existence something new. Creativity is in everything. It is how you talk, it is how you write, it's how you do, how you move your body. Creativity is everything that you do and you bring into this world. So all of us are innately creative, and it's not something that you're just as a kid, it's something that you innately are and you have to reconnect with, especially when you get older and life gets more busy and there's more noise and there's more influence. Creativity is a muscle that needs to be awakened and trained and practiced. And it's not something that you just are or you aren't. It's more of a way of life. It's a way of being yourself in the most expressive way you can, where I truly believe that everyone is creative in their own way. For me, being creative is writing. I feel I can express myself the best through writing. People who are talented musicians and singers and painters and builders and engineers and people that are building things and landscape architects, anything, people who are interior designers, This is all creating. Everyone has their form of expression that speaks to them. Where if I really want to say something, or if I have a strong emotion, I have to write it out. That is the best way for me to express myself and to create something into this world. If I were given a blank piece of paper, my first instinct would not be to draw or paint or fold it into different pieces and make origami. It would be to write. But you give someone else a piece of paper and they could write music, they could write song lyrics, they could paint a beautiful picture, they could cut it up and turn it into a cube. They could do so many things because that's how they're going to express themselves. And this idea of creating, it's not one way to be creative, it's how you best express yourself and put energy into this world. Creating is something that I've found through storytelling, where my best way of creating is to write, is to storytell, is to communicate, because that is how I best bring energy into the world. To be human is to create. Every idea, everything you speak, everything you do is you creating something into this world. Of course, there is influence where we take in everything in our world and we interpret that and then we create something back into the world. I feel like creativity is an extension of who you are, a way to express who you are and to connect with others. And it's a way of being, it's a way of existing. It's not some talent that you have or you don't have. It wasn't until college that I got back to writing for the first time since fifth grade. And I think of that gap of 10 years where I didn't do any real creating. And I had moments here and there, but it wasn't something that I put into my lifestyle. It was something that was dormant and it was waiting to be called upon. In college was the first time that I really asked myself, what am I passionate about? Because all throughout middle school and high school, I was focusing on having friends and playing sports and getting into college. And all of these things are great for what it was. But I wasn't really listening to my dormant creativity. When I got to college, I threw myself into all these creative endeavors. I joined film club, I joined this magazine where I was writing blog articles. I was doing a lot of different things. I remember I was in the woods one time for this film that we were making for this film club. There was this energy of, it reminded me of when I was young and I was in the woods and I was playing with my friends when I was like 8. And there was something so magical about being in nature, in creating, and having this freedom of expression where you have the full power and ability to create. And I remember it was like thinking about camera angles, thinking about positioning and shadows and the storyline and everything, and just being in nature and collaborating with other people and creating this story through film was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. And I think back to how simple it was, where it reminded me of what I was like as a kid. And I thought maybe I want to go into film. And I started writing scripts because I was really excited about film. But I realized that my natural way of expressing myself is through writing books. It's through literature. It's through writing that inner monologue that you can't get on the film. It's writing that backstory, that subtle foreshadowing. I've realized that writing in literature form is more connected to me than writing in a script form. I had pockets of creativity here and there, but nothing really pulled me out of it until I studied abroad in South Korea, and it was the most beautiful experience. I was away for 4 months. I was thrown outside my comfort zone. I was so homesick. And as much as I really enjoyed this experience, it was one of the most challenging times in my life. And I think about it and I really dig deep. And in that time, I had the pull to write again. I had the pull to write a book. And at the time, it didn't make sense because I was in a whole new country. I wanted to do travel blogging. And I thought that this would be the perfect time for me to do travel blogging. But my heart was pulling me to write a book because that's how I wanted to express myself. That's how the energy within me was asking to be expressed. And I started writing, and it was this beautiful experience of I haven't felt that creative spark since I was 10 years old. And it's even better than I was 10 years old. I feel more creative now than I did when I was a kid. There was something about being so homesick that writing became my home, where it was something where I was so outside my comfort zone that I was pulled back to what really brought me comfort and joy, and that was writing stories. And it didn't make sense because I was 21 at the time. I didn't think that adults were writing books. Anyone who was adult and writing a book, they were either extremely professional, they had studied it in school, they were a professional author. I thought that people just did it as kids and everyone else was like me and they kind of lost their creative touch. But I found my way back to my creativity in a time where I really needed to express something. I had a whole country in front of me to explore and all these experiences to have, and I still chose writing in cafes every day. I still remember this one cafe that I always went to. My debut novel that I'm editing right now, I came up with that idea in that specific cafe a year and a half ago in Korea, and I still treasure that experience because there was something about that time that was so nostalgic where I felt like a kid again. I was playing, I was practicing creativity, I was writing in notebooks and drawing sketches and thinking of different possibilities. My imagination hadn't been used like that in so long. And I think about, where was it this entire time? Was it really dormant? Was it really something that I just wasn't connecting to? It never left me. My creativity never left me. It was always there waiting to be expressed, and I just had to tap into it. Now that I've graduated college, I'm in this limbo of time where I am given the freedom for the first time in my life to choose what I want to do with my time. Of course, I have responsibilities. I have to make money. I have to be responsible. I'm an adult now. With being an adult comes this freedom that you have as a child. As much as my education helped me as a writer and helped me become the person I am today, it also blocked me from a lot of my own creativity. For the first time in years, I can sit down and ask myself, what do I want to do with my time? And I can think of all the logical, rational things that I should be doing, but my heart pulls me towards writing. On my off days, whenever I'm not working, whenever I'm not busy, I will find myself in a cafe, like embedded in this story, listening to music, creating, drawing sketches, just creating a story. And it is the most beautiful experience because I truly feel like a kid again. The world feels more colorful because I found my way back to writing. There's this concept that once you're an adult, the fun is over, where you have to be responsible now. You have to be this, you have to be that. But that's not true. It doesn't have to be true if you don't want it to be. Now I have the freedom and the time and the experience to express more mature things that I couldn't express when I was younger. Whether you are 15, 20, 30, 70 years old, no matter how long your creativity has been dormant, if you feel a call to something, it's never too late. It's never too late. I had this false belief that just because I was graduating college that it's too late for me to start a new passion or a new trajectory of my life because I've already done all these things. I've already wasted all this time. But that is so not true because people that are 10, 20, 30 years older than me will look at me and be like, you are so young. And people that are 90 are going to look at people that are 70 and be like, you are so young. People that are 99 will look at people that are 98 and be like, you have a whole year ahead of you. You have so much time. You can do so much. There's so much time. There's so much abundance in what we can do, what we can create. Children aren't the only people that are allowed to be creative. We have so much creativity and so much power and passion and energy to give to the world. It's never too late to write that book, to paint, to draw that drawing, to write a song, to join a band, to do anything, to build a bridge. You can do anything that you envision because you have that pull and passion to do so. You can create just as much as you consume. Everyone that is creating stories, creating movies, creating books, creating songs, creating products, creating buildings, creating anything, they are no different than you. They are just tapping into that energy. And you can create just as much as anyone else. And the best part is that your creative expression is going to be so unique to you that no one can copy it. Because every single person has a unique creativity that they can bring to the world. Because of this mindset shift, because I have realized that I am creative because that's how I am, I've been able to stay consistent writing my book. I'm working on edits of my debut novel, and it has been a year and a half of me working on this book, and now I'm working on a second book, and I have found this new passion for life that I thought was never going to come back. I didn't think this creativity was going to come back, but here it is, and I'm more creative than I ever was. You are innately a creative person because you are human and you have so much to express. This thinking has changed my life. It has changed the trajectory of my future, and I'm so happy. I am so grateful that I have come to this conclusion early in my life at 22. I like to make videos about writing books and being creative and the mindset behind everything. So if you're interested in that, please follow along, and I'm happy you're here. Thanks for watching.